Hello! You are watching the Video Voters Guide, organized by the League of Women Voters of Portland. We are in the studios of Metro East Community Media to talk with candidates running in the November 2020 general election. All candidates who filed for this race were invited to participate in the Video Voters Guide. However, there are many reasons during a campaign why a candidate may be unable to appear. For comprehensive coverage by the League, including information on candidates who might not have been available for a video interview, visit vote411.org. Information is available in both English and Spanish. Candidates may choose to include additional information on Vote 411, such as their own YouTube videos. Watch, share, and be an informed voter.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Davis with the League of Women Voters of Portland. With me today is Raymond Love, running for Gresham City Council Position 3. Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Please tell us a little about yourself, why you are running for this office, and what unique characteristics you have among all the candidates for this office.
So a little about me. I grew up in actually North Portland in the old, they call it the Columbia Villa. It was kind of a low-income area, raised by my mom and my three sisters. All of us turned out remarkably well considering where we started. We all ended up with master's degrees. We're all married. I'm married with my wife and two young boys, 11 and 14. We're all doing very well. I moved to Gresham in 2004, sort of to live the American dream and get the house and the picket fence and all of that. And I've substantially gotten that, but over the last 15 years, Gresham has sort of evolved into sort of a suburb of Portland in some of the not as good ways. And so I've decided to run for city council to see if I can sort of restore the Gresham of old, where it's sort of a destination to go away from Portland rather than merging with Portland. So look forward to your questions.
All right. What would be your top 3 priorities as council member?
So given the climate that we're in, particularly with COVID, it's had a lot of negative impacts. A few are pretty obvious and some not so much. So my first priority is to restore trust in government, because I kind of feel like as a result of COVID, a lot of people have lost faith in the government's ability to do our basic functions. And so I want to reach out to the community and restore that trust. The second is law and order. I think we have to kind of reestablish what normal looks like and restore that relationship between police and the community, because right now it's sort of fractured, and we can talk about why that is. And then finally, fiscal responsibility. So I think one of the basic functions of government is to control and spend wisely the money we give them. And that, again, is an area that right now is not being done very well by the council. And so I want to provide the leadership to make that happen.
The COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting devastation of small business, city employee layoffs, and housing displacement will be with us for some time. How would you seek to address the fallout, including the reduction in city revenue?
So it's a complicated problem. It's not something that I can answer in a minute or less, but I'll tell you this. One of the things that we have a responsibility to do is there's about a $5 million shortfall with the city of Gresham before COVID, just in years of fiscal irresponsibility. And so one of the first things I would do is look at ways to increase revenue. One of the things that we can do is reduce the service development fees, bring more development into Gresham. That'll increase revenue, which will reduce the need to pass those forecasted losses onto our current residents. And then the other thing that we can do is expand the base. So by expanding the base, I mean increase housing development and other commercial development, which will also increase revenue to the city, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. How would you address the public's significant concerns about police and community relations, use of deadly force, and officer accountability?
So this is a great one for me. As an African American, I love this question because it really gets to the core of what's going on right now in our city. You have the Black Lives Matter situation, you have racism within the police, I believe. and a lot of things that happen. But I think the leadership part is where I can kind of make a real difference. I don't think the solution to racism within the police ranks is to call systemic racism within the entire organization. I think what we need to do is have kind of a reset and say, hey, there are some things that are not being done real well on both sides, and how can we fix that? As someone who's been pulled over by the police many times, I'll tell you that I would start with, let's kind of re-engage the community with what the rules of engagement, as we like to say in the military. I've been in the military for 30 years. And the rules of engagement means if I pull you over on my side, I expect you to not reach for a gun. I expect you not to reach for a knife. I expect you not to do certain things. On the other side of the fence, I expect an officer not to treat me like I'm different because of the color of my skin. I expect an officer to treat me with respect and dignity. And I think if we can start the conversation off that way, I think the rest, we can overcome a lot of the issues that we've been facing, particularly in the last 6 months or so, where it's gotten really nasty locally, obviously, and then nationally as well.
All right, thank you for your answer. How would you strengthen Gresham's working relationships with surrounding jurisdictions on issues such as transportation, policing, social services, and the economy?
So one of the things I had a privilege of doing is I worked for the federal government for the Corps of Engineers for about 3 or 4 years in downtown Portland. And as part of my job with the Corps of Engineers, I was sort of a liaison between local, state, and federal partners who, in the event of an emergency, have roles and responsibilities in how we work together. And one of the things that I learned through that process is the importance of different colors of money, as we call it, sharing relationships with state and federal agencies. And in the case of Gresham, working, for example, with Multnomah County, I think there's a tremendous opportunity, particularly when you're looking at sharing federal dollars, sharing resources that we really aren't maximizing right now for political reasons, whether we have differences of opinion on how money should be spent. So I think what we could do as a city is really send out an olive branch to the city of Portland and to Multnomah County and Clackamas County and say, look, rather than us competing for federal dollars, why don't we put together plans to use those dollars more effectively together? And I think if we do that, kind of like when we put the Max line out to Gresham, we really took advantage of all the resources that the federal government would do. And I think we could do the same thing between Multnomah County and Gresham, for example, to get more parks and do some things that the Portland Parks Bureau has a much bigger park bureau than we do, obviously, and we could leverage that relationship to really make a difference.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Raymond.
Thank you.
This has been the Video Voters Guide. Thank you for watching. The general election is Tuesday, November 3rd. The last day to register is October 13th. Remember to mail your ballot a week ahead or visit a ballot drop location. Be sure to inform yourself about the candidates and ballot measures and exercise your right to vote.